In 1990, a man named Chalmer Chuck Hayes bought some old computer equipment from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Lexington, Kentucky. What began as an innocuous search for a bargain on some used computers ended up helping expose what the press would call a scandal of monstrous proportions and a living national security nightmare. On those computers were, according to a January 13, 1997 article in the Courier-Journal, files that contained confidential information about government informants. We don't know when the U.S. Attorney's Office began selling off these outdated computers to the public, nor how many were sold or to whom. What you need to know is, from that point forward, the government could no longer keep the informants' identities confidential, and this information was going to find its way into some very dangerous people's hands. I'm reminded of the disappearance of Heather Teague at Newburgh Beach and some emails obtained through a FOIA request by the mother. Two FBI agents, Sam and Jerry, were discussing the fact that liability for Heather's disappearance was the only thing they had to worry about now. You see, these computers contained a software program called PROMIS. That's PROMIS without the E. PROMIS helped prosecutors manage and track criminal cases across the country in ways they had never been able to do in the past. Not only did these bargain computers sold at a discount by the feds in Kentucky contain the tightly sensitive software, but one of the feds' own cronies would pirate and sell the software to whoever was willing to pay. It would end up in dozens of foreign countries, some of those who aren't so friendly to the United States. There is no way to know how many criminal enterprises ended up with this pirated software. Worse, trapdoors were installed on the pirated software, so every search, every function performed, every piece of information retrieved by the user could be spied on by the very persons that sold them the software to begin with. These trapdoors to me are kind of like barn doors, the kind that are too late to close once the horse gets out. I think this software is why the FBI agents investigating Heather Teague's disappearance were worried about liability. If she was an informant, and there are very good indications she was, her identity would have been compromised by this software falling into the wrong hands. Greta Henson, Jennifer Bailey, Betty Carnes, Jonathan Ryan Foley, Donnie Saylor Jr., maybe even Monroe Brock. If these people were informants, and we at least know for sure Jonathan Ryan Foley was, they were marked for death the instant they agreed to cooperate with authorities. Deaths you can lay at the Department of Justice's doorstep over the PROMIS scandal. The body count from this egregious breach of ethics by the federal government could never accurately be tallied. Journalist Danny Casolaro, mysteriously suicided in 1991, was to have met with, or did meet with, Lexington, Kentucky FBI agents hours before his gruesome death. As Guy Lawson, author of The Octopus, writes, Casolaro believed the theft of PROMIS was only a small part of a vast conspiracy run by an extremist element inside the American intelligence community. The cabal killed, stole, dealt drugs, all with complete impunity. This message isn't just for those living in Kentucky. This message applies to the entire world. The informant programs have long been compromised. Anyone participating in these programs is not safe. Witness protection is not safe. What was once intended to be legally, securely, and solely used by the Department of Justice to track cases and confidential informants was, as former U.S. Attorney General Elliot Richardson told the Washington Post in 1992, uniquely well adapted to being the software used in tracing the activities of an espionage network. We now have uncorroborated information that as many as 80 governments are using it. That's 80 governments, 80 trapdoors where the most evil and corrupt come and go at will, culling the rats, manipulating outcomes with insider information, and repeatedly raping the justice system through covert means and murder. There is no place for an informant to hide. No matter what you've done, nothing is worth putting your life or your family's lives in this kind of serious and immediate danger. Find another way.